Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everybody. There is one thing in life that we all want and need. I'm not talking about money. Put that aside for a moment. I'm talking about love, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper in that it's validation. We want to feel like we're being heard. We're making a difference. We're doing the right thing. All of that. There's a reason that many of us, if not all of us, in some capacity at some point are seeking validation. There is a true reason. We're going to talk about that today and how you can better find that validation within yourself. She is a certified life coach, a TEDx speaker. She's an emotional freedom technique practitioner, confidence expert, and so much more. Michelle Mehta joins us here on the program today. Welcome back. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor and a pleasure to meet with you week after week, Steve. I feel like you're becoming my new best friend, honestly.
We are friends. And actually,
Yes.
you make me sound good because when I talk to other people, I'm like the smartest man in the room. Based
There
on,
you go.
I take tidbits of what you say and, I share it. As a matter of fact,
There you
I'm
go.
in a men's group, have a meeting tonight. We meet weekly, and they made me the Charmin.
Wow.
So, and that was them. I didn't ask for it. They just said, you are going to be that. So I take this pieces of information and share it with others as we do here on this podcast. So the validation thing, how do you define seeking validation? Is it approval? What is validation?
Personally, to me, is number one is approval, right? But also validating with yourself, right? Validating with your mind, body, and soul. Am I making the right decision? Does it feel right in my gut? Are there butterflies? Is my heart beating really fast? Do I feel like my heart's expanding or my stomach is expanding? Like when we seek validation, we're seeking validation first and foremost for ourselves. Does it feel right? Or, when I say and, is seeking validation from the people that are involved.
Hmm.
And when I say people, that could be your executive board, it could be your family, your parents, your in-laws, your siblings, it could be anybody that you feel close to. It's getting that, am I doing that right thing? Am I making that right decision? Or am I making a wrong decision?
Is it the gut?
It is 100% that gut feeling.
Hmm.
It starts with that first. It always starts there. And then we move forward.
So let's look at it this way. Let's say you've done something. I don't know, I'm going hypothetical here. You wrote a book or you performed a task and your intuition, your gut says, this is good. I know it is. This came out the way I intended it to. It just feels right. We talked about intuition, gut feeling before,
Yeah.
just feels right. Is that enough validation? Or do you need to seek it from others? Yes, it would be nice to have people say, hey, I read your book and it's really good. But is it okay to just feel it from inside? Or is that what we're talking about here, where you want to get to the point where it comes from within and you validated yourself?
Absolutely. So number one with the book, right? Now it could be any story. It could be a made-up story, like a very hypothetical fictional story, like a Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings. Or it could be an intimate story where you're sharing something about yourself. Now, the moment we put ourselves out there as in a vulnerable state, you're gonna want that validation. Did I say the right thing? Did I make that other person involved, the characters involved? Did I portray them in the right way? Did I hurt anybody in the process? Right? I just did this first time thing. I'm not really sure. I'm having all the jitters. I need somebody to come in there and calm me down. Right. And just to say, hey, just that pat on the back. Because sometimes what's missing right now is the appreciation. Appreciation is what's missing, is missing. The lack of appreciation is very much present. We've taken people for granted. We've taken our teams for granted. We've taken our family for granted. And when that's missing, we are like, well, no one's looking at me. And then the belief system of I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not loved enough kicks in.
Hmm. Well, that's kind of fundamental in what many of us deal with. That goes back to our childhood, right?
Yes, it
Yeah.
does.
I'm aware
Zero
of
to
it.
seven is imprint stage. Whatever happened between 0 to 7 is the foundation of our life. It's the foundation of our adulthood, which many of us forget.
Mm. I discovered it and I connected the dots from that and had that feeling of for a number of different things, being bullied, all of that.
Yeah.
We've skimmed over those types of things, but do we always have that feeling? Are we going to? Let's say you've done the work, uh, you've identified why you feel that maybe you're not good enough in some situations. Will we always have that feeling? Can you ever get rid of it?
I don't think you can ever get rid of it, because it's part of
Mm,
our life. It is what is our foundation. It's what makes us. We're ever since we were born, we looked up to our parents for advice. We looked up to our parents for role models.
sure,
And then when you come to an adulthood, you realize, hey, mom and dad, maybe that might not have been good parenting. Maybe you should have done this better. And then we forget that they're doing the best that they can with the information that is given to them. And we all are doing the best that we can with the information that is given to us.
sure.
Right. And sometimes we forget that because we wear filters. You and I could be watching the same movie, we could be watching the same scene, and you'll miss that beautiful woman in that beautiful purple dress.
No, I
And
won't.
I will miss that. I will miss that car. I will miss that. I will miss that Lamborghini that just showed up because you were so caught up on the car, and I was so caught up on the woman that we were watching the same scene, but that's what we perceived.
I'm not a car guy, so that I have to disagree with that. But I'm kidding. Um,
Yeah.
would this be would this be it? Let's say you've identified from your past what why you have that belief that you're not good enough, and you've kind of figured it out. Is it a situation where when it presents itself, you're able to minimize it faster?
Yeah, knowing the fact of like stepping into gratitude. For me, I had a
Mm,
moment just couple days ago actually where I was just like, despite of everything that I'm going through, I haven't been able to find that man that I need for marriage purpose, or I haven't been able to find that man that I want to settle down with. And it went down that rabbit hole of like, am I really good enough for love? Am I worthy enough of this relationship? Will I ever have this relationship? And the moment I went down that rabbit hole and I said, you know what, Michelle, you are so loved in other capacities. And I made a gratitude list of who is in my life, who am I meeting in this moment, who am I having meetings with. And it brought me back to like, just because we want that one particular thing so bad that we forget about the other avenues that are available to us.
totally.
And it's like, you're so caught up on that one item on your plate that you're eating that you forget there's actually a whole dessert menu that's waiting for you to be picked on.
Sure.
But you're so caught up on that nachos that you even forget about the dessert menu. And then when the dessert menu actually arrives, we're like, oh no, it's so, we're so full.
Do
Right.
you feel in your intuition, right?
Yeah.
Meeting the perfect person, okay? Then again, what's perfect, but the one that you feel will truly support you. Do you feel that they're coming, they're showing up, it's going to happen? It is. Like you believe it, and that is that. Might not be as soon as you want it to be. It's in the universe's time, but you don't
Yeah.
have any doubt that that person is showing up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I believe in the fact that I'm doing everything in my power to make this happen, right? I'm putting
Sure.
myself out on the apps. I'm meeting people. I'm connecting with people. I'm asking the difficult questions. I'm pushing the buttons, right? Getting to know that. And you know what? When that person decides to walk away, it's a blessing from the universe to say, you know what? That means he's not the right one. There's somebody else coming. But
Sure.
to have that faith, right? And I was just reading a post that, there's like 7 steps to a relationship, but people stop at step number 3, which is when the moment the first conflict happens, they walk out. They don't even have the ability or the tolerance to even dig deeper and make it work. They're just kind of like, we're out because there's so many options available to us.
Mm. I
If
want to go
Match
back
doesn't
to
work, I'll go to Coffee Meets Bagel. If Coffee Meets Bagel doesn't work, I'll go to Bumble. So
sure.
there's always different avenues that's available. And so sometimes just focusing on that one person, having the drive and the tolerance to work through. And then also asking for validation is asking validation of yourself. Am I the right person for this relationship? Am I sacrificing my core values to be in this relationship? Am I a people pleaser in this relationship? Am I being honored, right? As a human, are they following up on the tasks that I'm telling them to do? Am I following up for the things that they want? That's expected of me and vice versa. So it's really important to self-check yourself. And sometimes we forget that.
Do you feel as that goes on, and I'm just using this one
Yeah.
situation, as time goes on, do you feel that your self-worth gets higher and higher, like to the point where you say, well, I'm not going to settle for that. And I'm not saying that you're in a relationship and work out onto the next. I'm even just meeting people. No, 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 no. Not to the point where you're blocking everybody out, but this is what you want because it's your gut telling you. It's
Yes.
and so follow-up question to that on apps. Let's say, and this is the reason I'm bringing this up is I can relate. Um, in terms of your intuition, have you found that, let's say you're going to meet somebody from an app, right? You plan it out. You think about what it's going to be like and what that person's going to be like. And, you don't think it's the best situation, I'm going to go anyway. I'm just going to go meet him. Do you find more times than not that that's exactly what you thought it was going to be, but you went anyway?
100%. I've
Yeah,
actually did that, part of a project. So, as a coach, I have a team of coaches that I personally work with to better myself and to, figure out who the real Michelle is, because sometimes we
sure.
forget, right? With all the belief system and the labels that we put on ourselves. And so 3 years ago, I embarked on a journey with a relationship coach. And Steve, I kid you not, her program is you have to meet 40 people. You have to meet them and one time. And this is about 40 people of the opposite. Now, I'm a woman seeking a man. So I have to meet 40 different men from the ages of 18 to, 80, basically all ages, and have a intimate conversation. And and the intimate could be about learning about their belief system, could be about their values, could be about the generalization of men and women in general, what they talk about, and then put it into an Excel spreadsheet. Steve, I finished those 40 people in 4 months. And it was an amazing experience because as an Indian woman, I used to only date Indian men and meet only Indian men. And so this was like no Indian people at all. And I had to only meet them one time, whether it be a breakfast, lunch, dinner, or a walk or and really
Hmm.
just you had to meet them in person. You couldn't do over Zoom and you couldn't do over the phone. It had to be generally in person, and you see their mannerisms. And then if they asked you for a second date, you had to politely say no.
Hmm.
Could
This
not
is
ask them out a second time. Cannot go out with them a second time, because the whole idea is when you say no to something, you up the doors for something better to come in. Now, the only way the better is going to come if you've learned your lesson from the previous. So the first 10 were people that I were meeting that had no college education. They were just high school graduates and they were just working. The next set of 10 had a degree, a bachelor's degree. The third set of 10 were really the ones that I was looking for. And the last 10 were the longest to meet because they were not giving me the time or the date to meet up.
wow.
And and I also planned my sister's engagement in that process. So I planned my sister's, and during that whole 4 months, I was also 2 weeks were off to plan my sister's engagement party and the proposal. But despite of all of that, it's like just going out and meeting people. And this was 2021. So COVID was still there, hadn't fully, finished
Ooh,
yet,
okay.
and so, but having the ability and the network. And I met
Hmm.
all 40 of these people on dating apps.
So questions. We went down a rabbit hole here, but there's principles that come back to what we originally started talking about was
Yes.
validation. But there's a number of things I'm identifying here or want to. So
Yeah.
the people that you met on these dates,
Yes.
you weren't necessarily attracted to them on the
No.
app. You were just like, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna meet you. That next
Yep.
one, I'm gonna go, I'm
Yep.
gonna meet you. Interesting. I'm gonna say out of the gate here that it probably built a tremendous amount of confidence in you.
It did. It did
Yeah,
because this was a time where my coaching business wasn't where I was expecting it to be. I was still fighting that world of like, am I a coach? Am I not a coach? That imposter syndrome was very much valid inside of me.
sure.
And this gave me the opportunity to talk about my coaching business that I was starting from scratch with 40 different people who had no idea what I was about or anything. And that gave me the validation that number one, I am date worthy. Number two, there is a group of people that actually understand me and want to take the time to understand me and my career. Because as an Indian woman, sometimes I feel like our culture is so complex, our country is so complex. Every state has its own language and the food is so different. And so just seeking validation of are people from the non-Indian race attracted to a woman like me? Am I attracted to somebody that's non-Indian? And so it was completely thrown out of my comfort zone, and growth really happened for me to the point where and I told them, I was like, look, I'm doing market research,
Oh,
and
so
if this
you
sounds
told your
someone,
dates?
I told all of them, I said, you know
Oh,
what? I will not be able to date you again until I finish my 40. And
okay.
unfortunately, you guys are number five or you're number six. And that was my consistent story. It could have been 25, 35, 15, 20. It didn't matter. But I just kept telling them you're number five because I didn't want to get their hopes up. And I said, look, because I didn't know when the project was going to end, right? I didn't know how long it was going to take. But I kept telling them the same story over and over and over again to let them know, hey, look,
Wow.
my intention is to just meet you one time. And they grabbed my pinky and they wanted to grab my whole hand, right? They're like, oh, I want all of her. And I said, no, unfortunately, I cannot do that. So it taught me a lot about not people pleasing, because sometimes part of seeking validation, you go down into the people pleasing route. You
Yeah.
sacrifice your core values, what you stand for, to say yes to somebody else. And then you're in this spiral of nobody loves me, nobody understands me, nobody appreciates me because you sacrificed you from the get go.
I totally agree with you. And isn't it interesting once you start realizing that and those boundaries and the people pleasing thing, you get to a point where it's you just I'm not doing that. I'm going to honor myself. Like, let's say there's a party coming up Saturday. You really don't want to go. It's like, I guess I should go, because it's a friend, but whatever the situation is. But inside, it's like, I don't really want to go. You get to a point where it's like, I'm not going to go.
Right.
It's
And you
it.
know what? The people that, when they say no to something, you open the doors to self-care, self-rejuvenation. You open the doors to stepping away from being an extrovert into an introvert because that's where creativity flows through,
Hmm.
right? So you're honoring who you are. And sometimes we're just forced into situations. We're
Yeah,
forced into meetings, we're forced into conversations, and then they don't get the best side of us. So now you're devalidating you because you're not showing up as your best self. And nobody wants an unbest self. Everybody wants to be their best, right? And so
sure.
put yourself in the best situation 24/7. But it takes a lot of work to do that. It takes a lot much
100%.
easier said than done.
Yes, it is. And I'm glad you said people pleasing because that's hand in hand there with validation, doing things, uh, and also trying to provide value. Let's say you connected to something business wise or whatever, and you can do things for people.
Yes.
And it's just, another way that you can just bring them into your world so they'll like you and all that. But after a while, I have to believe it just gets old. Like you just feel just it's just empty. It's empty.
Yes.
Yeah.
Empty. And it's like that phrase, right? You have a cup, you can fill it up with water, and you're never going to fill up the cup all the way to its full because, to full capacity, because it's going to spill over. So you always leave a little bit of the room. A lot of people just focus on that empty space. Some people only focus on the part where the cup is actually has liquid in it, right? And it's like, where is your perspective? Are you looking at it from a half glass empty or a half glass full? Because that's going to give you the perspective of how much validation are you seeking from yourself and from others.
Mm. I'll share a story as fresh as this past weekend. There was and I'll laser this. There was a concert. I had the opportunity to be on stage and host part of it. And my goal was to honor a woman that I did radio with for many years. And she loved this type of music, freestyle. She just that it was her. And
Yeah.
I wanted to dedicate the show to her. And I had a bunch of friends there and they were all like, can we go backstage? Can we hang out backstage? And I said, love you, but no. And In another world, I might have been people pleasing. All right, let me see how many people I get back here. I'm like, no, my focus, my drive was on her and what I wanted to accomplish. And that's it. And I didn't care about, backstage. I just wanted the 6,000 people to know that this show was for her. And long story short, one of the groups sings a very popular song with her first name. And that was another way to honor, and she loved the music. But in another time before figured it out, I would have been like, all right, let me talk with security and see if I get you back there. And I know what would have happened. I wouldn't have been able to just be in my moment
Well,
at
and at
that
the same
time.
time, now you're catering to those people backstage, and now you've also messed her vibe
Yes,
up
there you go.
as so you are now on this spiral that you have no idea that you could even be on,
Right.
right? Because then, like, you open the door to one, but now you've created a bottleneck situation where now she's flustered because there's people that want to take photos of her, versus
Well,
now you
no,
just
no.
gave her.
The person I'm referring to passed away.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah.
I was going to, I did dedicate the show, but I wanted to honor her
Yes.
memory and my energy of what I was going to say. And to your point, if I had other people there just, extending the welcome to make them happy, um, I wouldn't have been able to honor me and her because I just wanted to be in that moment. I just
Right.
nobody around. I was just there waiting, man, watching a show, waiting for the cue to go, and that was it. And I know if people were around, I'd be worried about, are you happy? You need some water, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, no, nope,
You'd
nope,
have
nope.
taken the focus away from yourself and you would
Right.
have been catering mode. And then all of a sudden now it's when you're on time, quote unquote on time, you
Yeah.
are now flustered, right? Because you're
Yeah.
not able to
I wouldn't
take
be
that
100%.
time. Yep, exactly. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really important. Like when you think about like who are you seeking validation from? Who are you seeking validation? Like, who are you giving validation to? Every time someone gives you a compliment, don't give another compliment back. Just say thank you and pause because they just gave you a gift of
Mm.
acknowledging you.
You're 100% right. And it's so many of us follow up with something else. Like somebody says, I love that outfit. I love that shirt you have on. Well, thanks. Yeah, I found it on sale. There's always something that goes with it. Or, I like it, but it's not my favorite. I have another one that I like better. You're totally right. Thank you. Boom. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And like, it's like, Steve, you're such a great guy. Doesn't have to be, oh, so are you either. It's just, Steve, you're such a great guy, period. You just say thank you to that and pause because I just gave you a gift of acknowledging you.
Those are those little things in life and thank you. And
You're,
I want to
you're
say
most
you're
welcome.
you're a wonderful person, and I want to share it back to you because I feel it. If I didn't, I wouldn't say it.
Right.
But a lot of times we're compelled to feel that we have to, throw it back. You don't always have to. You
Nope.
don't, do what you truly feel. Or it's like typical, like, hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm great. How you doing?
Right. We're so trained that way as an
Yeah,
autopilot.
yeah,
Versus just saying,
totally.
you know what, pause. And that's why, on a couple of our previous episodes, you've said a couple of things. I didn't say something right back at you. I just said, thank you so much and left it at that to let me be seen and for you to say that, hey, I heard your compliment or I heard what you're saying. Because
Sure.
sometimes we forget to listen. We're
Yeah.
so quick to listen to respond versus listen to understand.
Got a minute left or so. Your your team, the people around you that you seek validation from, how do you address that?
I just say, you know what? How do I show up the most authentic way that I can? I check in with my heart and I check in with my body. And at this point in my life, at 35, it doesn't matter because I know what I'm doing. I have enough confidence within myself because of the work that I've been doing. And the work only came by working with professionals, whether it be a therapist, a counselor, a coach, or a consultant or even a mentor, but by working outside of me, I have the confidence to say, you know what? I am who I am. Take me as I am or watch me as I fly. And that only came at 35. It did not come earlier. But you know what? That's when I know that I'm being the most authentic with myself. And that's what matters.
Beautifully said. And Michelle, that came for me many years after that. So good for you. I'm
Thank
being
you.
honest. I truly mean that. It did, I didn't discover that what you discovered, and that's just golden. And congratulations on the 40 meeting 40 people and in 4 months.
Thank you.
There's a lot you learned in that.
Absolutely. Yes. And you
It's
know what? I am still single. Maybe I might have met maybe 100 people since then, now that we're in 2024. But you know what? It doesn't matter because with every interaction, I learn something new about myself that I would not have never explored. So
yes.
put yourself out there, whether it be in corporate, whether it be in the dating world, whether it be in a family circle that you haven't connected with. Keep putting yourself out there. Let people see the gift that you are. You're here on this planet for a reason. Connect with people, share your ideas, and you'll never know who the right person is going to listen to it.
Love it. Love it. Even networking.
Yes.
Many of us are afraid, I don't have I'm not going with anybody. I'm just going to go alone. I'm going to feel uncomfortable. Don't. I know it's not easy for some of us. Just do it. Start a conversation. It's one more person you met, like you did, and one more opportunity to learn something about yourself in that moment. And it's golden. It truly is once you figure it out. Uh,
Absolutely.
Michelle, help us figure it out. How do we find you? What's the best way?
Number one, you can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram at I am Michelle Mehta, and that's IAMMICHELLEMEHTA. Or you can find me on my website at michellemehta.com, and that's MICHELLEMEHTA.com. And that let's
Hmm.
start up a conversation. Just reach out. Let's connect and let's figure out a best way to put yourself out there so you can seek validation from yourself first before anybody else.
Thank you for everything today.
Thank you.
I truly mean it when I say you are a joy to meet with, to talk to. I really mean that. And for some, it might sound cheesy, but that's the best word I have to describe. I look forward to it. I learn a lot, as we all do, and appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure meeting you on Zoom today. Thank
It
you.
was. Yep. We'll talk soon. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.